So I think if you look into the last 10 years, the boom of the data, and the most important thing is understanding the data is important, is both positive as well as negative, right? The negative being you have too much of data, right? The positive being now you can actually do something with this data. If you think about the data, it's like an orchestra, right? So it's a lot of noise, a lot of data. Everybody's talking about the data. And the data analyst is the conductor trying to create the symphony of this data, right? So they are trying to create a harmony that gives you that insight that you can take decision upon, right? So I think the major challenge of the business and IT is to come together and to realize that potential of what data can bring, but also work together to bring that vision to life. I think the first thing I would always say is instead of thinking about how, start talking about what. What is that you're trying to solve? What is that insight that will drive your business, right? Once you understand the what, then you try to answer why before you go to how, right? Every time we tend to lead towards the how part of it, right? Should we bring all the data in? But for what purpose? What is that insight that's going to help me drive that one? So that might help you filter out some of the noise and focus on the data that you actually need. And that might not be so big. That might not be so scattered, right? So the most important thing for data managers is to think about that end goal in mind, right? So if you know that I'm trying to generate an insight that's going to help my reps to be more effective in the field, or you are trying to generate an insight that's going to help to select the sites to run your next clinical trial. So once you know that end result, then you start tracking it back. What are the data sets that today we have available in the country or in the company, right? Then from there, you try to understand in order to pull that data, in order to integrate that data, do I have the right tool sets available? Right. And once you have answered these things, then you try to actually go in and start working with these data assets, right? So as a data manager, as an IT infrastructure leads, right, your first important thing is not to just consolidate those data from different sources, but really putting that governance model on that, right? And this is where IQVIA as an omni-channel vision in our Connect framework, we emphasis on those data quality metrics, right? I think the problem of data silos within each of the customers, regions, and in the business unit, and try to get integration of those data assets, right, is the first major problem that our customer face, right? Second thing is understanding those data so that you can actually take insights and take analytics on top of that data, right? So you have to organize that data, you need to structure that data, right? And the third part is when you actually generated those insights out of this data, how do you send those insights back into the end user applications, right? Because your end users, right, your customers, your reps, or your clinical trial administrators are not sitting on the data platform. They are sitting on their end user platforms, right? So as you're generating those insights, you bought the data, you generated your insight, now you want to make sure those insight goes back to those applications, right? So whenever we are interacting with customers, we are trying to understand what are those key aspects of omni-channel that you're trying to solve, right? Because the important thing, the way market has shifted, right? We were in an era where we were looking into one single channel, right? That is the rep-driven market in the commercial space, right? Then we moved into the era of multi-channel. We wanted to interact with the customer in different channels, right? Now we're in an era where we are looking into how this channel actually work together, right? Because end of the day, it's not about channel, it's not about the data, it's the customer at the center, right? You are trying to reach your customer the most effective way you can, right? So you need to orchestrate those channels in such a way that it doesn't feel like you're trying to impact that customer or trying to influence that customer, but try to bring the right value to that customer, right? Healthcare, life sciences is our bread and butter, right? So when we understand what our customer is trying to do, then bringing our data, technology, and services, we can help accelerate those vision that our customer is trying to realize. So I think when you combine this data consolidation, data integration, and this analytics on the data, having that structured approach of looking the bigger picture and then drilling it down to the core value proposition will definitely help the data analysts, data managers to get to that success. So this actually helps our data analysts and the IT to come together and try to do some innovating things with the data. So I'm really excited with this marrying mix between the data volume expansion and the technology to support that. It will be the next generation for us to generate insights.